Girl asks, "Mom passed out in the car. Can you help me?" Watch what this incredible mechanic did next. The bright Saturday morning sun poured down on the little town, illuminating Mia's determined face as she leaned against their old, run-down car outside Mel's diner. Fear clawed at her heart while she glanced nervously at the doors. Inside, behind the greasy diner's window, her mother lay unconscious. Addiction was a heavy, haunting presence in their lives, and today it felt like it was encasing them both, wrapping Mia in an almost suffocating grip. Her heart raced as she mustered every ounce of courage. Today was different. Today, she was going to fight. Nervously, Mia stepped inside, and an awkward hush fell over the diner. The usual hungover laughter was replaced with sympathetic looks and the clinking of coffee cups. Her eyes darted around, but all she could see was a sea of concerned faces, each one wrestling with their own silent struggles. And then, there he was, Jim, the local mechanic with a heart of gold, a man who never backed down from helping someone in need. Yet even he couldn't escape the whispers of judgment that flowed through the room. "Can you help me?" "My mom passed out in the car." Mia's voice trembled, half a whisper. Yet it was filled with fierce urgency. She could feel the townspeople's eyes boring into her, judging her, her breath quickening under the weight of their scrutiny. Jim's expression shifted. He saw the fear in her wide eyes, a reflection of his own past struggles. Without hesitation, he nodded, embodying the spirit of solidarity that truly defined a community. As they rushed outside, sunlight bathed them in warmth, but a chill raced up Mia's spine as darkness loomed in the distance. She could feel the weight of judgment hanging over her like a storm cloud. Jim slipped into action, moving quickly towards the car, but then they were interrupted. An old rival of Jim's, fueled by pride and prejudice, attempted to stir up conflict, their tensions suddenly boiling over in the crowded diner. Shouts erupted, patrons taking sides, the heat of anger clashing with the need for compassion. Mia's heart thundered in her chest as she cried out, "Please, just let him help!" Her voice cut through the chaos, raw and real, seeping with desperation. It wasn't just her mother. It was a plea for understanding, a call to look past the headlines and judgments that surrounded addiction. People paused, caught off guard, their faces shifting. She could sense the implications of her words filtering through the air, making them reconsider their harsh views. Just like that, the atmosphere thickened with uncertainty. Would they pull together, offer a lifeline, or let prejudice keep Mia and her mother in the cold grip of neglect? Every eye in the diner flickered, engaged, while the town's solidarity dangled precariously by a thread. Would they band together to lift Mia and her mother, or would they allow their biases to win out again? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The diner fell silent, an electric tension filling the air. Would they choose compassion over condemnation? Mia took a deep breath, her small frame imbued with newfound bravery. Together with Jim, she stood at the crossroads of change, poised to reveal the truth that lay hidden beneath their shared humanity. As Mia's tiny voice beckoned for hope, the fragile bonds of their community hung delicately in the balance, waiting for someone to take that leap of faith. Would they rise together, or let fear and prejudice pull them apart? The silence was thick, almost palpable. Mia felt her palms grow damp, anxiety washing over her like a wave. She dared to look at Jim, who was still standing steadfastly beside her, eyes fixed on the crowd. She could see the flicker of hope in his expression. He believed in the goodness of people. But would they? Moments passed. and the tension in the diner had morphed into something more than merely uncomfortable. Some of the patrons were shifting in their seats, exchanging glances, their eyes filled with uncertainty. It was as if they were waking from a deep sleep, awakening to the reality of Mia's plea. This was about more than her mother. This was about a shared responsibility to open their hearts and extend their hands to someone in need. Finally, a small voice broke the silence. It's true. It was Mrs. Collins, a regular with a reputation for being hard-nosed. The town's elderly gossip could sway opinions like leaves in the wind. I know her. The weight of her words brought a hush that reverberated through the diner. I've seen her struggling, but we can't just turn our backs. That was it. It sparked something in the crowd. One by one, more voices began to join in. We're not perfect, asserted Tom Parker, the local bartender, whose own family had battled addiction. How can we judge? I used to think it didn't concern me, chimed in Sarah, a bright-eyed waitress with unwavering empathy. But we all have our battles. We need to show support. As each voice rose, it chipped away at the wall of judgment that had built up over the years. Mia felt her heart swell. Hope blossomed, filling the hollow spaces within her. Help has to start somewhere, Jim added, taking Mia's hand in his, squeezing gently. We all make mistakes. What matters is how we lift each other up when we fall. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted, almost as if a light had been turned on. The crowd began to murmur in agreement, eyes glistening with emotion. This was it. A reckoning. They were wrestling with compassion versus stigma, and it looked like humanity was winning. But in that moment of bridging connection, the door of the diner swung open with a jarring creak, and the loud entry of Danny, Mia's mother's most recent boyfriend, shattered the fragile equilibrium. His face was drawn tight, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. What's happening here? He shouted, a torrent unleashed. You're all sticking your noses where they don't belong. Mia's heart sank as panic washed over her once more. What would he do next? The chatter quieted, and eyes turned onto him, a mix of curiosity and fear threading through the crowd. Would Danny's presence pull them apart again? Or could they stand firm together, fortified by the warmth they had just begun to share? Time seemed to stop. Mia's breath caught in her throat, but she could also feel an ember of strength rising within her. She had to confront him. It was time to stand her ground. As she took a single step forward, her voice low yet steady, she looked into the storm brewing in Danny's eyes. You don't get to scare us anymore. The diner was tense, yet charged with a new sense of determination. Would the community's resolve hold against that familiar threat? Would Mia's courage be enough to unite them in this moment of truth? Danny's nostrils flared. He stepped deeper into the diner, the wooden floor creaking under his weight. Shadows seemed to stretch behind him, as if the darkness he carried invaded the bright atmosphere of the diner. What do you know about her? He sneered, pointing a finger at Mia. You think you can just come here and tell everyone how to feel? You don't know her like I do. His voice was a hurricane, shaking the very foundation of her hope. But Mia held her ground, her heartbeat steadying as the community stood still around them. Every pair of eyes was fixed on her, a sea of faces that now mirrored her resolve. She took a deep breath and raised her chin higher. I may not know everything, but I know she needs help, Mia replied, her voice growing stronger. And I know that this town has the strength to give it. For a moment, silence enveloped them again, but this time, it felt different. It was the stillness before a storm, and Mia sensed it brewing within the group surrounding her. Danny's expression twisted, fear mingled with anger, and for the first time he seemed unsure. You think they care about her? People like to judge. Everyone here has their own problems, he barked, searching for allies in the crowd. I'll tell you what we care about, shouted Tom, his fists clenched by his side. We care about giving people second chances, We care about lifting each other up." Some nodded in agreement, and others murmured backing words, emboldening Mia and drowning Danny's assault in an outpouring of collective empathy. Danny's bravado faltered, his gaze darting wildly across the room. He looked at Mrs. Collins, who shook her head disapprovingly at him, and Sarah, who held her hands out in encouragement. The diner wasn't just filled with patrons. It was now a community standing together. Mia pressed on. "What you call weakness, we call humanity. Nobody is immune to struggle." She felt the warmth of Jim's hand tightening around hers, a silent show of unwavering support. As faces turned back to Danny, the anger that once bubbled beneath his cool exterior began to recede. He balled his fists, each muscle tensed as people challenged him, not with hate, but with the desire to help. "I won't let you hurt her," Mia proclaimed, determination layering her voice like armor. "Not anymore." The patrons nodded, expressions transforming from fear to resolve. The realization that their strength would overshadow Danny's anger fueled the moment, swaying the very air around them. Mia could see it, a shift in the balance of power. No longer were they just bystanders. They were soldiers standing guard over their community. Danny started, wavering, his words struggling to find a foothold. But before he could regain his footing, Mia's mother stepped in on the other side of the diner entrance. Confusion danced across her features as she took in the scene, her eyes glazed but flickering with fleeting clarity. "Mom?" Mia gasped, her heart pounding again, this time in disbelief. The room buzzed with astonishment as everyone's focus shifted. This moment could unravel everything Mia had just built, or it could be the turning point they all needed. "Why are you here?" Danny spat, a seed of panic creeping into his voice. The air thickened with uncertainty. Would her mother recognize the chaos? Would she support Mia, or would she fall back into the familiar darkness that had haunted them both? As the silence stretched, Mia stepped forward, her voice trembling yet hopeful. "Mom, we need you." What would happen next? The diner was on the brink, caught in a moment that could drown them all or launch them into a brighter future. Mia's breath caught in her throat as her mother hovered uncertainly at the entrance. Each beat of her heart echoed the question rolling through her mind. Would this be a moment of light or darkness? "Mia," her mother murmured, taking a tentative step forward. The name hung between them, heavy with the weight of unsaid words and unacknowledged histories. "Mom," Mia urged, her voice thick with emotion. "Please, we need your help. You have to see how much this matters." Danny didn't retreat. No, he pushed forward, like a storm determined to drown out the sun. "What do you know about it, Ruth?" he spat, throwing venom into the air. "You've been absent, lost in yourself. Where were you when she needed you?" Ruth's eyes flickered, shadows of regret crossing her features as she glanced from Danny to Mia. I just... Her voice faltered, unraveling like a worn thread. Mia felt panic rise but fought it back. This was her moment. "Mom, look around. Look at everyone. They care about Lucy. They want to help her." The crowd leaned in, their collective breath held, hoping this confrontation might reach Ruth's locked heart. They needed her to awaken from the depths of her struggles, to step into the light as Mia was trying to do. Ruth's hands trembled lightly, and her gaze roamed over the familiar faces surrounding them, faces that had once been friends and had shared laughter over pancakes. But life had slipped through her fingers, and her place among them felt distant. "Danny," she whispered, looking back at him with a mix of caution and sorrow. "What do you want from us?" The question stung, igniting an even greater fire within him. "I want to protect what's mine," he roared, his voice ringing harshly. "You think this town can save her? Look at yourselves. You're all just as lost." "Not anymore," shouted a voice. There was Sarah, fists raised high as she found her own courage. We're ready to stand with her. No one is too lost to be found." Moved by Sarah's words, the diner felt electric. The simmering connection among the patrons surged into a palpable force. One by one, people began to share their struggles, their failures, and their victories. Stories that resonated deeply, planting seeds of hope. Mia's chest swelled with emotions. This was her mom's moment of truth, the time to reclaim her place in this fight. But she also felt fearful. What if Ruth chose to stay in her shell? Would they crash and burn together, or would they rise like the sun after a storm? She stepped even closer, voice softer but unwavering. "You don't have to do this alone, Mom. We can stand together." Ruth blinked through tears, and for the first time, a flicker of hope ignited in her eyes. Names swirled around her: Mrs. Collins, Tom, Sarah. "Will you help me?" Ruth finally whispered, her voice barely audible but as powerful as thunder. Mia nodded, her heart pounding as the room surged with anticipation. It was more than just a moment. It felt like a beginning. But before the fragile veil of hope could settle, a cold rush of dread cut through the atmosphere. A siren wailed in the distance, pulling everyone's attention sharply towards the diner doors. "What now?" came a soft echo of fear, rippling through the crowd. Mia caught a glimpse of her mother's face, confusion and determination wrestling for control. What lay beyond those doors? Would it be salvation or another storm to weather? The diner stood on the edge of uncertainty. Would they step forward together? Or would they be swept away by the chaos waiting outside? The silence that followed the siren felt like a thick fog wrapping around the diner. Every set of eyes turned to the door, waiting, wondering what would unfold. Tears pooled in Ruth's eyes, and Mia felt a deep pang in her chest. This moment could tip either way. Ruth took a shaky breath, pushing her hair behind her ear, her gaze sharpening. "What if it's about Lucy?" she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Mia felt a flicker of electricity in the air. "Then we fight." She looked around the room, finding strength in the faces of friends and neighbors. "We stand together." Ruth's expression shifted, uncertainty giving way to something more solid. She drew in another breath, her shoulders falling back as she stepped closer to Mia. "What do you want to do?" From the back, Danny's sneer echoed. "Fight for what? A girl who won't even remember your names." His words cut through the quiet like glass shattering. "Stop," Sarah shouted, her voice rising above the murmurs. "We're not doing this just for Lucy. We're doing it for each other." Ruth's brows knitted together and she glanced at Sarah. The words seemed to stir something within her. "What do I have to lose?" she asked softly. "Nothing," Mia replied, stepping beside her mother. "You have everything to gain." The siren continued to wail, and suddenly, the tension began to shift. The crowd felt it. Energy was bubbling up, swelling like a tide ready to crash against a shore. "I can't." Ruth hesitated, voice breaking, as tears spilled down her cheeks. "What if I fail again?" Mia wanted to reach for her, to pull her into a hug and tell her it would be okay. But now wasn't the time for comfort. They needed action. "Mom, we all fail, but what matters is that we're here, together, ready to try again." A new voice, timid but resolute, emerged from the back. It was Tom, clutching a scruffy baseball cap. "I've lost so many people. I wouldn't wish that pain on anyone. But we can't be afraid to help each other." As he spoke, the group collectively seemed to blur the boundaries between despair and determination. Mia saw them becoming stronger, stirring into a unified front. "Okay," Ruth finally whispered, her eyes locking on the door. "Let's see what's out there." With newfound resolve, Ruth took a step toward the exit, and Mia followed, heart pounding at the prospect of the unknown. The crowd began to move with them, an ocean of hope pushing against the undertow of fear. But just as they reached the doors, an unsettling rumble cascaded through the diner. The unmistakable sound of shouts and chaos erupted from outside. The urgency wrapped around them like a storm. "Stay close," Mia shouted, clutching her mother's arm. Fear flickered in Ruth's eyes, but there was an ember of hope there too, growing brighter amid the turmoil. They stepped outside into the cool air, the late afternoon sun illuminating their faces, revealing the chaos unfolding on the street. A broken van sat abandoned in the middle of the road, and nearby, a group of frantic voices struggled to contain their terror. "What happened?" Mia asked, scanning the scene with her heart racing. The answer was about to shake everything they thought they knew. As the screams grew louder, one truth became clear. This wasn't just about Lucy anymore. Their fight had become something bigger, something unimagined. What would this new challenge demand of them? Would they stand firm, or would the storm sweep them away once again? The chaos roared around them. Mia felt the weight of it, like a heavy blanket pressing down on her chest. The abandoned van, scrapes and dents marking its surface, seemed to pulsate with danger. Frantic voices punctuated the air, rising and falling like waves crashing against a shore. "What's going on?" Ruth exclaimed, her voice quavering as she scanned the scene. It felt like her world was tilting on its axis. Before Mia could respond, a teenager rushed up to them, wild-eyed and breathless. "There's someone trapped inside." His words spilled out in a rush, his hands trembling. "We think they had an accident. You have to help us." Mia's heart sank. The unknown, the sounds of distress. It was all too close, too real. "We have to do something," she said, locking eyes with her mother. Ruth's determination flickered, just for a moment, but then it ignited. "Let's go," she said, her tone fierce now. They made their way toward the van, each step resonating with urgency. People were already huddling around, half-formed clusters of concern and fear twisting together. Mia pushed through the throng, her pulse racing, her gaze fixed ahead. When she reached the van, she could see the outline of a figure crumpled in the passenger seat. The front window was shattered, jagged glass almost glittering in the sunlight, and it caught Mia's eye like a terrible omen. "Can anyone get the door open?" someone shouted from the crowd. "We need to get them out." Ruth knelt beside the driver's door, hands shaking as she tried the handle, but it wouldn't budge. "It's locked." Panic threatened to creep back into her voice. "Here, let me." Another voice cut in. A man stepped forward, pulling something shiny from his pocket. He had stubble on his chin and a look of determination in his eyes that matched Ruth's as he expertly worked at the lock. Mia's breath caught in her throat. What if it was too late? What if they couldn't get them out? The tight knot of anxiety in her stomach twisted harder. "Stay back!" the man called out as he finally popped the door open. Gingerly, he leaned inside, and Mia strained to catch a glimpse. The figure inside looked small, shrouded in shadows. "Can you hear me?" the man asked, his voice softer now, coaxing. "Mia!" Ruth's voice broke through her concentration. "Help me!" Mia brought her focus back to her mother, who was struggling to support the weight of the man's body as he leaned further into the van. A glimmer of hope started to take root in her heart. They weren't alone in this. They could do this together. On 3. Ruth's voice was low but steady. 1, 2, 3. They pulled together, the weight of the situation becoming a shared burden. As the figure slid closer to the opening, a gasp erupted from the crowd. And then, just as they pulled him free, a shout pierced the air from behind. "Mia! Look out!" She whirled around at the sound, heart pounding in her ears. Time seemed to freeze as she saw something barreling towards them, its shadow stretching long and ominous. What was about to happen? Would courage be enough when the stakes were higher than ever? Mia's instincts kicked in. She pushed her mother and the man aside just as a speeding truck hurtled past, demolishing the empty van they'd just freed the man from. The ground trembled from the impact, and it all happened in a blink. A cloud of dust filled the air, choking screams erupting from the crowd. "Mia!" Ruth shouted, her voice a mixture of fear and urgency. With adrenaline coursing through her, Mia grabbed her mother's arm, pulling her back further from the wreckage and chaos. The teenager who had run up to them now stood frozen, his face ashen, eyes wide with shock. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I just wanted help," he stammered, his hands trembling as he looked from the van wreck to the new chaos. "Stay with us, okay?" Mia said, trying to sound braver than she felt. "What's your name?" "Daniel," he replied, still shaken. Mia noticed how scared the young man looked. He had wanted to help, but fear had paralyzed him. "Look, Daniel, just take a deep breath. We have to help each other," Mia encouraged, her voice steadying. The scene felt surreal, a whirlwind of horror and struggle. But somehow, in that maelstrom, Mia felt a spark of clarity. Just then, another voice cut through the clamor. A woman, tall, with a defined authority, stepped into the fray wearing a fluorescent vest. "I'm a paramedic," she called out, taking charge as she approached the injured man. "Make space! We need to assess his condition." Mia and Ruth instinctively stepped aside, allowing the paramedic to do her work, but they remained close, their hearts pounding. The injured man was conscious now, confusion etched on his face as he looked around, bewildered. He coughed lightly, and the paramedic quickly placed an oxygen mask over his face. "Stay still. You're safe now," she said firmly, her hands moving quickly to stabilize him. Ruth gasped softly, gripping Mia's hand tighter. "What are we doing here, Mia?" A hint of fear crept into her voice. "This isn't our world." Mia turned to her mother, see the deep worry in her eyes, yet feeling the steady strength behind it. "We're helping, Mom. That's what we do." But even as she spoke, doubt crept into her heart. What if they weren't enough? As she looked back toward Ruth and Daniel, fear turned to resolve. They may not know the depths of this world, but they could stand together, shoulder to shoulder, in the face of the unknown. Just then, the crowd gasped again. The source of the chaos, the truck, had slammed to a stop. Its driver was now stumbling out, clearly dazed and confused. A tense stillness settled over the scene, and everyone held their breath, eyes darting between the driver and the first responder, then back to the wrecked van. "Please don't let this get worse," Mia whispered under her breath, hoping her plea could somehow influence the turbulent fate surrounding them. What would happen next? Would the driver be a friend or an enemy? As the onlookers waited to see the next act in this unfolding drama, Mia felt the weight of the moment pressing down heavier than ever. The driver's face was pale, and his clothes were disheveled. He looked like he had just woken from a nightmare. As he stumbled forward, he stepped on a shard of glass, causing him to wince in pain. Mia's heart raced as she saw the blood oozing from his foot, mixing with the dirt and debris. What had just happened started to feel real, like a heavy weight in her stomach. "Mia, stay back," Ruth urged, pulling her daughter closer. But the young woman couldn't move away. She felt an urge to understand, to see what the driver would do next. "Are you okay?" Mia called out, breaking the charged silence. The driver glanced in her direction, his eyes darting with fear. "I didn't mean to," he shouted. It was like something was pulling me. I couldn't control it." Daniel stepped forward cautiously. "You hit that van. Are you drunk or something?" "No." The driver's voice cracked, panic spilling into the air. "I swear I wasn't drinking. My brakes, I couldn't stop." Mia felt a chill run through her. This man had caused the chaos, but there was also something human about his fear. He was a part of this story too, lost and desperate. The paramedic, still tending to the injured man, shouted back toward the driver, "Get over here. We need to check you for injuries." While the crowd murmured around them, Mia stepped forward a little, wanting to process the madness. She could see the driver's shoulders shake, the strain written all over his face. He was scared. In that moment, the child within him broke through the harsh reality of the incident. Was he a villain or a victim? Did intent matter when lives were at stake? "Mia," Ruth called again, urgency creeping back into her voice. "Stay close." But Mia couldn't back down now. "Please," she said to the driver. "You need help too. Just take a deep breath and let them help you." He looked at her, confusion mixing with disbelief, and cleared his throat. "How can I? Why do you care?" "Because life is fragile. Everyone here is scared. We all need help." She said those words and felt them in her bones. It wasn't just about the man who drove the truck, or the people he harmed. It was about understanding their shared humanity, finding common ground in the chaos. As he took a shaky step forward, Ruth was gripping Mia's arm tightly, but she felt the warmth of her mother's love underlining her concerns. Suddenly, sirens pierced the air, the wail slicing through the tension. People turned their heads, looking for the emergency vehicles racing toward them. Relief swept through the crowd, but it hung heavy in the air along with the uncertainty. In that moment, Mia's mind spiraled. She could sense that the chaos was far from over. As the paramedic paused to watch the incoming vehicles, Mia pictured what the aftermath would bring. The questions, the blame, the possibilities of reconciliation or regret. All around them, emotions swirled. There was hope, fear, confusion, and a whisper of something deeper, almost divine. Mia felt a determination blossom in her chest. She wanted to find a way to make sense of this for all of them. The truck driver took another shaky step forward. "I just came from a family emergency. My mom," he faltered, eyes glistening. "I was trying to get to her." Mia's heart squeezed tight. Was his mom okay? What had happened? Suddenly, everything became interconnected, a web of stories spiraling around pain and urgency. "Mia!" Ruth's voice pulled her back, drawing her attention urgently. "We need to get out of here. It's too dangerous." But Mia hesitated, a sense of responsibility anchoring her in place. And just like that, an unshakable voice whispered in her heart. What if it was about more than just survival? What if this was how they could confront the chaos and find a flicker of hope amidst the debris? Holding her breath, Mia turned to Daniel, ready to dive deeper into this uncharted territory of empathy. Would they find a way to help each other heal? What secrets lay waiting to unfold around them? "Please!" The truck driver's voice cracked again, raw with emotion. "I need to get to her. My mom is in the hospital. She's sick." Mia felt the weight of his words settle deep in her chest. This was more than just a moment of panic. This was a desperate plea from a man caught in a storm of guilt and fear. Her mother's grip tightened on her arm, but Mia didn't flinch. Her eyes remained locked on the driver. "I know it's overwhelming," she said softly, "but you have to let them check you out. You won't be able to help your mom if you're hurt." The driver hesitated, glancing at his foot, the blood that dripped slowly onto the ground, mixing with the remnants of shattered glass. I can't think about that right now." The sirens grew closer, the sound echoing even louder in the changing atmosphere. Mia could feel the anxiety of the crowd swell again. People were whispering, eyes darting, searching for clarity amidst the chaos. "Mia!" Ruth's voice rose, panic lacing her tone. "We really should go. This is not safe." Yet, the urgency only pushed Mia further. She took a step forward, looking at the driver with fierce determination. "What's your name?" "Jake," he replied, his breath shaky. "Jake," she repeated, letting his name hang in the air for a moment. "You need to let them help you. Your mom wouldn't want you to carry this weight alone." His face crumpled, and for just a second, she saw the flicker of a hope trying to break through. But then uncertainty clouded his features again. Mia could see the struggle within him, the weight of responsibility for both his own injuries and his mother's situation. Daniel stepped forward, his brow furrowing with concern. "We can't help if you don't let us help you, man. We're all here for a reason, right? To help each other?" "Yeah," Jake murmured, his wavering voice barely audible among the responses from the crowd. The sirens blared louder, a reminder of the gravity of the situation. Mia could feel an increasing urgency to reach him, to bridge that gap of fear with compassion. She moved closer, intent on easing his tension. "Let them check you. You're going to feel better once you do. Then we can figure out how to get you to your mom." Ruth's grip softened slightly. She could see Mia's earnestness, her bravery in the midst of chaos. "Mia, please." "No," Mia interrupted, her voice strong. "Just trust me." Jake swayed on his feet, a mix of fear, vulnerability, and reluctant acceptance clashing within him. I don't want to let her down," he whispered, drops of anguish clear in his tone. Mia stepped forward again, hesitant but driven. "Then let us help you. We'll figure it out together. You aren't alone in this." As she spoke, a calmness started to settle over him, bridging the gap between panic and understanding. Slowly, he nodded, uncertainty fading just a fraction. "Okay," he breathed. "Okay." Just then, the first emergency responders reached them, and a wave of relief washed over the crowd. Mia watched as the paramedics rushed to Jake, guided by urgency, but rooted in the same human compassion she felt in her core. But the moment was fleeting. She knew there were still deeper questions awaiting answers. How would they ensure that each of their stories would lead to hopeful beginnings? Suddenly, Mia's phone buzzed in her pocket, slicing through the air like a knife. Her heart skipped a beat at the thought of who might be reaching out. Now wasn't the time for distractions, but she couldn't ignore it. She glanced at Ruth, who nodded, giving her the go-ahead as she watched Jake being attended to. Mia took a moment to gather herself, her fingers trembling as she pulled out her phone. The message illuminated her screen, and her breath caught. "Mom's awake. She's asking for you." What did that mean? How could she be awake now, amidst the chaos? Mia's heart thundered as she looked back at Jake. Was there a connection here she wasn't seeing? Was this moment about to spin into something even deeper? And what would the consequences be for all of them? She turned to Daniel, ready to delve into that uncertainty, ready for the revelations that lay ahead. Mia stood at a crossroads, alive with urgency and fear. Her heart raced when she saw the paramedics working quickly on Jake. The chaotic scenes around her began to blur with emotion as she tried to make sense of everything. Then came the news that her mother had awakened. It felt like a glimmer of light breaking through the murkiest waters. "Mom's awake," she murmured, disbelief coating her words. The moment felt surreal, yet strong. What if Mom's awakening marked a new beginning for them both? The sounds of the sirens faded as she turned to Daniel, his expression mirroring her own swirling feelings. "We can't just leave Jake like this. Right now he needs our support," she urged. It was a plea, one that echoed deep inside her core. "Yeah, but what about your mom?" he replied, uncertainty speckling his voice. "Mom will understand. I can't ignore this. We can't ignore this. It's about more than just us," Mia insisted, her determination igniting the atmosphere that still bristled with tension. Just then, Ruth stepped closer, her strength radiating as she took Mia's hands in hers. "You're right, Mia. You're so brave," she said, emotion swirling in her eyes. "But let's keep our family close. We can't afford to lose sight of each other in the midst of this." Mia met her mother's gaze, sensing the connection they'd been chasing throughout the chaos. "I can be here for both of you. We do this together, Mom. You and me. You're my family." Ruth felt the warmth of her daughter's words sink into her heart. "Okay," she nodded, finding strength in the bond they shared. "Let's help him." The moment felt charged, their courage shimmering as they turned back to Jake, who was being carefully examined. The paramedic spoke to him softly, urging him to stay calm. Mia stepped forward. "Jake, we're with you. You won't go through this alone," she called. He lifted his gaze, surprise shimmering in his eyes. "You really mean that?" "Yes, we're going to help each other," she assured him. "Just let them work on you." The words resonated with every struggle she had ever faced, bridging the gap between pain and healing. As the paramedics gently maneuvered, Mia watched in awe as the town somehow began to transform. People gathered around, not just as onlookers, but as a collective force of unity, tension dissipating in the face of shared purpose. Witnessing this made Mia's heart swell. In that instant, it felt like they were reclaiming more than just individual stories of struggle. They were laying foundations for community healing. Every face pressed into their thoughts, roots intertwining in a way that created something beautiful amidst adversity. Soon, the sirens became the soundtrack of recovery, splashing life back into their hearts. Warmth surged through the air, propelled by shared humanity. Nearby, Daniel squeezed Mia's hand, gratitude glistening in his eyes. "You're amazing," he whispered. "Thank you." As Jake was stabilized, a wave of solace washed over Mia. The storm may have raged on outside, but inside her, something monumental had shifted. She felt a flicker of hope igniting. Together they were opening up spaces for healing, breaking down walls of shame, and casting back judgment. "This isn't the end," Mia spoke, her voice rising above the gathering relief. "We have so much work ahead of us. We can become stronger." "That means everyone," Ruth interjected, her confidence blossoming as she rallied more voices. "Let's keep standing with each other. Let's make a change." "I'm in," someone from the back responded, driven by the momentum. Mia felt the burgeoning excitement beneath her skin, pulsing like a drum back to life. They could grow into the community they aspired to be, together. "We can organize support, spread awareness," Mia added. "This is about our families. People who felt the weight of judgment should know they aren't alone. We can give each other hope." And just like that, sparks ignited. The enthusiasm sparked chatter among the crowd. Unity wrapped itself around everyone, an invisible thread binding them to one another. From the fragments of pain, a brand new narrative took hold, one built on strength and acceptance. In the midst of this swirling energy, Mia suddenly felt a firm but gentle hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Mrs. Collins, a kind smile lighting up her wizened face. "You've reminded us all of what really matters. Let's do this together, dear." Mia found herself beaming, her heart flying high. The battle was far from over, yet the community was bleeding with hope, a contact point for healing that ran deeper than any preconceived notion. With every heart opening, they embraced the power of transformation. And as they continued to rally together, Mia realized they were building something beautiful, a tapestry of courage forged through resilience. Each stitch came from the healing power found in empathy. As Mia stepped back beside her mother and felt her warmth flowing through their intertwined fingers, she breathed deeply. Their journey was finally leading them different places together. The fight was on, a bright future awaiting them, waiting for their fingerprints to weave the narrative of hope. "Let's go, Mom," Mia whispered softly, taking a deep breath before stepping fully into the light. All were together now. After this, they would only go forward. And as the activity around them began to settle, Mia couldn't shake her excitement. This was a moment alive with possibility. Her call to action, If this story touched your heart, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire change in the world. Leave a like to make a difference in the algorithm, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What did this ending mean to you? Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need this kind of transformation in their lives. Remember, true fans understand the importance of fostering this community. Show your support